Welcome to the Direct Snap. It is August 30th, 2024, and it is a Friday, which means tomorrow is Saturday. And this Saturday is week 1 of college football.
Come on.
Yep, and so last Saturday was week 0. We had a little appetizer, Florida State, Georgia Tech.
Yep.
It was that. We had Hawaii played a little bit, SMU, New Mexico State, just a bunch of little teams. But this week we have actual big matchups. It's actual week 1, and so I'm pretty excited. How about you?
It's a big weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to get my popcorn ready and watch some football. So this last week in week 0, we had the first top 10 upset of the season. It took place not in America. It was in Dublin, Ireland.
It was.
In Florida State versus Georgia Tech. Florida State was a big favorite going into the game, but Georgia Tech came in and they shocked the world, specifically Ireland. But all of college football fans watching, almost everyone expected Florida State to win. They had been hyped up to have a great offensive and defensive line. They were told that they thought they were going to go compete for a national championship. They were hyped up. They thought that they got the short end of the shaft. Is that the phrase?
Short end of the stick?
Yeah, short end of the stick last season when they got left out of the playoff. And whether that's true or not, they really had a chip on their shoulder going into this game. But that did not help them.
Yep.
They completely got manhandled on the offensive and defensive line. And give credit to Georgia Tech.
For sure.
They looked like a solid team. They played sound football. They played really well. But they just beat Florida State straight up. They got them with a late field goal to win the game. And we have our first college football playoff upset of the season.
It really is interesting, though, because where does Florida State go from here, you know? A lot of stuff in fall camp and stuff, all the coaches and they were all saying their O-line. They're always harping on their O-line. And then to come out and your O-line gets embarrassed, it's kind of like, man, do you actually have a good feel in your program? Like, it's kind of concerning because, like, what else do you not know? Because they're saying that they're going to compete for a national title and stuff like that. And then to be so confident in something and it just wasn't true, well, what else is not true about your program? It's another example of just relying on the portal a lot. They rely on the portal a lot. And, I've said that in our last episode that high school recruiting really is the foundation of having a good team. And when you don't do that, it gets a little shaky.
And, with that being said, I know that you and a lot of other experts picked Florida State to win the ACC this year.
Hey, it's still up in the air.
Where do you see... Okay, it is possible, but where do you see their season going from here?
I can still see them getting the ACC championship game. I still don't think Miami's going to make it. I still have Clemson, Florida State in my championship game.
Okay.
Now the pick to win it might be a little different. I'm still kind of undecided. I think it's kind of up in the air. But, yeah, I mean, Clemson does have a solid program. They are a really solid program. And like I said last episode, I don't think they'll be elite, but I think they'll definitely be the tier right below. So I think it'll be an interesting matchup when they play. Do they play regular season?
They do.
Yeah,
they play October 5th this year.
Okay. So that's, what week 5? That's pretty soon.
I think it's week 6 or 7.
Week 6? Okay.
Week 6.
But yeah, that'll be a really interesting matchup. I think whoever wins that matchup early in the season wins the ACC. That's my pick.
That's an interesting take. I had Florida State in my championship game for this season and losing to Clemson, but after just watching them play against Georgia Tech, I'm not a believer in them this year. I think they'll be a solid enough team. I think they probably go 8-4 or 9-3 most likely. But I think that Florida State fans are going to have a disappointing year.
Mm-hmm. And don't rule out the possibility of Georgia Tech just being a good program this year. We don't know for sure. They could be. And I don't think they're going to necessarily compete for the ACC championship game, but they could be right below that.
Georgia Tech looked like a solid 8-4 or 9-3 team in that game. They've got solid quarterback play. They had good offensive and defensive line play, and the receivers didn't do anything special, but they caught the ball when it was thrown to them. Not having drops is so important in today's college football.
Mm-hmm. And the race for the ACC isn't completely closed off. Like their schedule, the Georgia Tech schedule is pretty favorable. it's not a grueling SEC schedule. So
That's true.
there could be a run there. You never know. Catching a lot of momentum after week 0. I mean, week 1 hasn't even happened, and they already beat a top 10 team.
It's true. So next up, last night we got our first taste of this year's Colorado football team.
Deion Sanders
going against North Dakota State.
FCS.
Yes, they
FCS.
North Dakota State, they pride themselves on winning FCS championships. They are the Alabama or the Georgia of the FCS division. Mm-hmm. They would compete and they would beat a lot of Division I football teams. But last night it just wasn't in the cards. What do you think of Colorado so far?
Man, it's really hard to say they're anything better than a mediocre Group of 4 team because they struggle against, obviously they are the Bama, they're the big dynasty in FCS, but still it's an FCS program. Like, they don't have the funds that we do, or FBS does, So, I don't know. I still don't think they're going to be legit in the Big 12. I think they'll probably be middle of the pack, if not a little bit lower. But, yeah, I don't have them performing very well in the Big 12. The Big 12 has just so many solid programs. They have so many solid, 8-4 teams, 8-4 for the Big 12. But yeah, I don't think they'll perform crazy well. I don't think they'll be contending for the Big 12 championship or anything like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And with that being said, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, they're both projected top 5 picks.
They are.
What happens to Colorado after those guys are gone? Yeah. What happens if one of them goes down and gets hurt?
And it's not crazy unlikely. Even last year, Travis Hunter got hit in the Colorado State game, the rivalry game. He got hit and he was out for I think a couple weeks or so. So I mean, it's definitely, it can happen. But
yeah, last night Travis Hunter played 129 out of 131 snaps.
Holy cow.
One of those snaps was only because his helmet got taken off during the play. Man. That's not sustainable over the season. Yep. I have to imagine that he's going to get hurt at some point.
And without even Travis Hunter, even with Shedeur Sanders, without Travis Hunter, I don't think they would have won last night. I think literally just because of those 2 really good players, they won last night. And I think their foundation is not really there. Their O-line, Deion Sanders early in the game, I think it was the first quarter, but it was 4th down in their own territory. Yep. And he went for it because, all he's been saying as well is their O-line is great. And so they ran it, I think 1 or 2 yards, and they didn't get it.
It was 4th and so close. It was probably 4th and inches.
Yeah.
But North Dakota State stood him up and got the stop.
Yep.
And with that being said, we're going to go to North Dakota State's counterpart. Mm-hmm. What do you think of South Dakota State this year?
South Dakota State, they're playing OSU, Oklahoma State, in a matter of hours. We're like 24 hours away from kickoff. And
1 o'clock.
Yeah, they're recently, I think they won last year in the FCS. If I'm not mistaken.
They won it the year before that also.
Wow, so they're kind of like the Georgia almost. They're a little bit newer than the North Dakota State. But
South Dakota State actually has a 19-game win streak on the line right now.
Oh man. Yeah, it's definitely a trip-up spot for Oklahoma State because the spread's only like I think 9 or 10 points. And that's just what happened to Florida State. I don't know. I think from just the feel I've had from Oklahoma State fans, they're definitely not doubting them though. I mean, people I've talked to, they're all kind of nervous, and I would too because also. You don't really know how they perform with a Power 5 team. You don't know how they're going to play. So it's like, are they going to stoop down? Do they stoop down to the teams they play in the FCS and then they raise the bar when they play Power 5 teams, or are they going to stay where they're at?
Yeah, and something to go along with that. Oklahoma State traditionally they always overperform in their seasons. Mike Gundy has done an excellent coaching job there, but they also typically struggle in the beginning of the season. They lose to teams that they should not be losing to. I think it was last season to South Alabama. They just got absolutely smoked on their home field in the 2nd or 3rd week of the season. And after that point, they started giving the ball to Ollie Gordon, who's probably the best running back in the country. Great job for that. Where was he at the first 3 weeks? Yeah. Why didn't you know what you had going on? And I think that this is a serious potential struggle spot where you're going against a smaller school that you have the potential to lose to.
Yep.
I would be really worried this week if I was an Oklahoma State fan.
If South Alabama does that to you, then South Dakota State I think is going to take care of business.
Yeah, South Dakota State is no joke for real. You need to go in there serious and ready to go if you want to win that game. So next up, we get to talk about the big games this week, the games we are excited for. So what is the game that you are most looking forward to this weekend?
Most looking forward to, it's hard not to go with the obvious. The 11 a.m. kick. Everyone's going to be watching.
Really?
Clemson, Georgia.
Okay.
It's hard to go past that, you know. It's
two
a
big
playoff
brands.
matchup, really, you know.
It
Past
may be.
years ago. It's, you know,
Hey.
it's really intriguing, you know. It's a must win, I feel like, for both teams. Because, like, you know, if Georgia doesn't win this, if they can't beat Clemson, they're not going to survive this schedule. Their schedule is looking really intense. They have number 5 Bama, number 4 Texas, and number 6 Clemson. Number 6 Ole Miss, all on the road.
Oof.
So if they can't tell Clemson at a neutral site, they're going to be in trouble.
You know, I think that's a fair take. Georgia, I think they are slightly on the decline this year. They're not quite as good as in years past. And I do think Clemson wins the ACC. So by default, I think this is a playoff matchup. But with that being said, even on the decline, I think that Georgia is just light years ahead of Clemson. I think they're better in every area except for quarterback. I know that's a hot take considering Carson Beck is a Heisman contender and Cade Klubnik for Clemson isn't getting a lot of love right now.
Yep.
But Cade Klubnik doesn't have all the 5-star help that Carson Beck has. Carson Beck is phenomenal in his own right. He's a great game manager. I don't think he's a game winner for you, though. Whereas Cade Klubnik, I've been a big fan of his since his freshman year when he won the starting job. I think he's got all the potential in the world and that he will do great things at Clemson. So
I think it relies on. I think the whole ACC relies on if Cade Klubnik's still going to have interception problems because they turned the ball over a lot last year. So if they keep those numbers down, then yeah, I expect big things from Clemson for sure.
Yeah, that's really true. But like I said, I think Georgia's light years ahead still. I think that they're going to win by 20 plus in this game.
Wow.
I see Georgia winning the game probably 41 to 17, 41 to 13, somewhere in that range. No disrespect to Clemson. I've got you winning the ACC, but Georgia's that much better right now.
Yep. And it's called a neutral site game, but it's in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's
So
not a
it's,
neutral site game.
And, you know, I don't like neutral site games to open the seasons. You know, this is college football. The biggest part of it is all the pageantry and all the culture of going to different home games. Like, what are we doing these big, you know, kickoff games, going to neutral sites? I don't like it, but even this one, it's like they're trying to say that it's neutral site, but it's not. It's in Atlanta.
Yeah, like, there are some neutral site games that I can be on board with.
Yep.
Week 1, I'm fine with there being 1 or 2, but don't have a neutral site game in the hometown of one of the teams.
Of the favorite. Georgia's favored by 13.5.
Georgia is the number 1 team in the country. They're favored by double digits. You're calling it a neutral site game, but it's in their backyard. This is not a neutral site game. This is probably going to be the toughest game of the year for Clemson, and it's week 1.
Yep. And, you know, if they did this home and home, this would be so fun. You know, the Bulldogs,
that would be awesome.
The Bulldogs coming in the Tiger Stadium would be amazing.
Going into Death Valley.
Yes, it would be so good. But, you know, I just hate that we ruined those kind of moments that we could have doing neutral site games.
And fun fact about Death Valley, EA College Football video game released their updated stadium toughness rankings. And
they go up pretty high?
The Tigers went up pretty high this ranking.
I saw A&M dropped quite a bit. Or I think LSU went to 1. I can't remember.
LSU's at the 1. Clemson went up to 6. As they should be. Death Valley's a brutal place to play.
They have Oklahoma pretty high on that, but I feel like it's hard to even get a good feel on that because in the Big 12 we never had any really big.
There was
teams.
no big games.
We know, so it's like, how do we know? I don't know how intense it's going to be. You know,
we're going to find out this year.
Yep, I'm going to the Tennessee and Bama game there in Norman, and so I'm going to find out how crazy.
You're going to see just how crazy those fans can be.
Yep, for sure.
But we're going to move on to personally my favorite game of the week, and that's going to be Notre Dame at Texas A&M.
I thought you were going to go Miami, Florida there.
No, Notre Dame at Texas A&M. I love the Mike Elko hire for Texas A&M. I think he did great things at Duke, and he even brought along his quarterback, Riley Leonard. I think they're going to have a lot of success there together. And for Notre Dame, I looked at their schedule. I at least thought they had 2 decent games during the year.
Yep.
But later in the season, that second game was Florida State. And I don't know what to expect from them now. I think this is probably going to be Notre Dame's toughest game of the season at Texas A&M to start the season. And Texas A&M historically underperforms. Notre Dame historically has a weak schedule and still drops a game or two.
Yep.
So I think that this game could really be interesting. I love the new coaching hire for Notre Dame, and I think he's going to do great things there. I think they're going to have a lot of success, especially on defense. He got hired 3 years ago. This is his third year also. But I think Mike Elko is going to win this matchup for Texas A&M.
Yeah, but I think Marcus Freeman really does need to show us, how elite he can get the Notre Dame program. Because Notre Dame, obviously, historically, they are a blue blood, but as of recent, I wouldn't ever put them. I don't think there's any season as of recent that I would put them in the elite category. No. They've always been just right there, right below it, but I don't think they've ever really been elite as of recent.
I think the last year that they were really elite was the 2011 year, where the 2012 national championship game, where they went undefeated during the season to make it to the BCS national championship, where they were favored as the number one team in the country. Also, that good old Alabama and Nick Saban, the number 2 team, could come in there, and they smashed them. That was men playing against boys on that football field, and the Notre Dame players said so after the game also. There was a clear difference there, and that was the last time that they were truly elite in the college football realm.
Yeah, and I think this, Texas A&M has one of the best home advantages ever. They have the 12th man.
They have the 12th man.
And I don't know, Notre Dame hasn't really gone to really intense, or at least they don't consistently go to an intense home game. A road game every year.
They play a soft ACC / independent conference schedule.
But going to that environment for any team is going to be tough, especially if you're not used to it for Notre Dame.
Yeah. So next up, the game that you mentioned at 2:30 on Saturday, we get Miami at Florida.
Wow.
Now, this game is so important in my eyes because, truthfully, you got a bottom-tier SEC team, Florida. They're expected to go 6-6 at best this year. They have a brutal schedule. Give them credit for what they're going to have to go through. But they're considered a bottom SEC team. And you're going against, probably right now, top 3 ACC team in Miami.
Definitely top 3.
If this is big, not just for these two programs. Florida needs it to have a good chance of making a bowl game this year. Miami needs it to set the tone for their season and to go compete for the ACC championship. But it's also bigger than that. You got a bottom tier SEC team going against a top tier ACC team. If you're the entire ACC, you need Miami to win this game.
For sure.
You're guaranteed the one team for your conference champion to make the playoff. But if you want to have a chance at making 2 teams make the playoff, Miami has to win this game.
Yep.
You can't have one of your contenders go and lose to a bottom tier SEC team.
And Miami's going into the swamp too. Again, don't forget it is Florida home game.
Yeah.
And Florida has won 33 consecutive home openers.
Wow.
They have a massive streak in home openers, so it's one of those things where it's a big streak, but also like a lot of the more not crazy good teams is their home openers. But
it's true.
Man, still, it's really exciting. If Billy Napier doesn't, at least go 6-6 this year,
he may be gone.
I think he'll be on the hot seat for sure. There was kind of argument about either coach here if they have a subpar season, they both could be on the hot seat. But I think it's definitely more Billy Napier. It's 6-6 is not what Florida's brand is.
Yep, and I spoke about the difficult schedule for Florida this year, just trying to get to 6-6. The crazy part for Florida fans is if you win this game, you've got a really easy path to 5-0. And you mentioned we both mentioned Billy Napier being on the hot seat. If he starts 5-0, he may get an extension right there.
That week.
Florida fans, I know that makes them nervous because they play back to back to back to back to back to back 6 straight top 25 games to end this season. And they very well may go 0-6 in those games, and in the season 5-7, 6-6, even if they start the season 5-0.
Man,
So game prediction.
for Miami, Florida,
Yeah.
you know, it's hard because I want Florida to win. You know, it's hard because we're both Oklahoma fans. Obviously, I don't know if you can
That's
tell
true.
or not, but and Florida's a conference team now. You know,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you kind of want to go for the conference team, but. My prediction, I think Miami's gonna get it done. You know, I think it's gonna be either a field goal or overtime. But I think it'll be a thriller. But I think Miami has their roster. I think I said this last show. Their roster is so good, but it's just Mario Cristobal and the coaching staff. If they can just get the roster, you know, to actually perform to how skilled they are, then you know, if they can, then I think they'll definitely in the playoffs and they're a contender.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just their roster's elite. Their recruiting is very good, but it's just they got to play on the field. And I think if they can perform on the field, then they'll get this done easily.
Yep. And something really important about Miami is over the offseason, they had the addition of Cam Ward at quarterback.
Yep.
And I don't know if you remember this, but like 4 years ago, he was at Houston and he was tearing it up there. And he is a phenomenal athlete at the quarterback position. If he has a big year and they compete for the ACC, that's a guy that you could see go in the top 2 rounds of the NFL draft.
Yep.
And for really tough games like this, I have a rule that I stick with the better quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, I think that Florida is really going to give them a struggle. I think that home field advantage is a big thing.
Yeah.
But Cam Ward is the better quarterback. I'm sticking with Miami. And this is with me wanting Florida to win the game. It would be fun for Florida to win the game. But I've got Miami winning this game probably, I think 34-27.
Yep.
I think that Florida is going to keep it close. I just think that Miami's going to score a little bit more. And I think it's going to go down to the wire. I think Miami probably scores a touchdown in the last probably 7 or 8 minutes of the game, and then they're able to hold on from there.
Yeah. So all the games all the games we've covered so far have been Saturday. Clemson, Georgia's 11 a.m. Miami, Florida, we got the 2:30 slot, and then evening slot we already talked about 6:30. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. But the next day on Sunday we have a really interesting matchup. We have USC and LSU playing in Las Vegas at 6:30 on a Sunday. How do you feel about that one?
I'm so excited for that game. I have not held back on my feelings for the snake known as Lincoln Riley. And I think that he's going to have a bad season. He doesn't have Caleb Williams at quarterback. I've got USC going 5-7 on the year. And OU, Lincoln Riley, he's always been able to put up plenty of points. He's never had problems with points. And that's won him a lot of games. But you got, I think, Mac Miller or something at quarterback.
For who?
For USC. And I don't even know anything about him all that well. Miller Moss. That was his name. I got part of it. But I don't think that USC is going to do all that well. LSU, they have elite talent all over the defensive side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball also. And I think that LSU's defense is going to shut them down for the most part.
Yep.
I think USC does have the most explosive receiver in all of college football. Zachariah Branch is absolutely phenomenal. But I think that LSU is going to win this game probably about 38-24, 38-17, somewhere in that area. I think that USC fans get ready.
Yep.
It's going to be a tough season.
Yeah, I think if LSU's defense is just, just decently improved from last year, then I don't think it'll be a problem. I don't even think it'll be a close game, really. But yeah, I mean, USC, it's just, it's only offense. We're used to that. We're OU fans. We've seen Lincoln Riley play.
Been there, done that.
But yeah, like I said, if LSU can just hold that offense back just a little bit, I think their offense will take control of the game, and I think they'll do fine. Again, it's another neutral site game. It's in Vegas. it would be awesome for USC to go to LSU. It would be awesome for LSU to go into USC.
goodness.
But, not going to happen.
Those
You
two
know,
stadiums are
it's dollar signs. It's
historic.
sponsored game. Modelo sponsoring it. Just, they got to get their money, play on a neutral site.
That's all it's about now.
I don't like it, but, it's still a great matchup. At least we're getting the matchups.
We are getting
the
the
matchups that we want. This week one has been littered with rare good matchups. And the past few weeks ones, I don't think I've lived up to this. I think this one is just really good.
Yeah, I think that's really accurate. And I'm also going to go ahead and pick my biggest upset of the week.
Oh, yeah?
What time is this game? I'm going to look it up real quick. You've got Penn State going against
11 a.m.
West Virginia. 11 a.m.
Yep.
kickoff. All right. I've got West Virginia with the upset there.
Wow.
I love what West Virginia has at quarterback. I think that West Virginia has just a sneaky amount of good players all over the field. I think that Penn State is traditionally a not elite but better than good team.
Yeah.
They're usually 10-2 and sitting at that 8-10, 8-11 range. And there wasn't teams that I would drop them below in years past, but I also thought that they were a lot closer to, say, a 15-16 team than they were a 6 or 7 team in the country.
Just when you're in the Big Ten and no one else besides.
Yeah, they had
you.
2 real games on their schedule,
Yeah,
and they
and
got
it's just-
blown out in both of them.
Yep.
And this year, they've got a few more real games. I think playing at Morgantown is going to be a really tough ask for them. And I do think that Penn State will still go 8-4, 9-3, maybe 10-2 on the year. But I've got them losing this game to start the season. I think it'll be a fun game, but I've got the Mountaineers winning probably 27-24.
I think this game falls into Drew Aller's hands. I think if he plays the way he played last year they played, I think Penn State wins. But I think if he plays the way he did the other half of the season, the second half of the season, Drew Aller, I think it'll be a lot closer. And West Virginia at home, it'd be hard not to give them the edge if Drew Aller's really struggling this year.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Quarterback play being so important.
For sure.
And if you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment, ask us questions. All of those things matter so much to new guys like ourselves who are trying to just put out good college football content for fans like you.
If you have any questions, for sure, we'll do a Q&A video too. Once we get enough questions about, maybe some football takes or even just personal
Ask us
questions.
about the season.
Just anything, but for sure, like and subscribe. We really enjoy making these. We're going to try to make these at least a weekly minimum.
Yeah.
To, go over the week and then go over the next week.
Yep.
But, so.
All right, we've enjoyed having you.
Subscribe.
Bye.